Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taormina, blog around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, host of Week Taormina on Oriented Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching Oriented Television. A lot to talk about here this week here on the podcast. Here we got two very good football coaches we're going to talk to this week here on the podcast. We're going to start off with Farmington coach Jason Albright here. Coach, thank you for calling in this week.
Thank you for having me.
When you look at Farmington, last year was one of the most unique seasons. I would say, you guys got into the playoffs, knocked off Lakeland, ran to a very good Orchard Lake St. Mary's team last year. Talk about last season. I mean, because you guys went through a lot of adversity.
Yeah, and that's something we've always talk about year in and year out about how do we respond, and not just in football but in life. And week one we have a lead against Oak Park, and then our quarterback Julian Johnson goes down. So yeah, that was quite a shock. We go through the year, we kind of bounced around using athletes and quarterbacks, and then we have our backup quarterback Leo Payson, and kind of went back and forth, and found our identity and hung our hat with our defense playing well, and got through week 7. I think it was Troy, and Julian actually was cleared, and we kind of eased him back, and I think he threw a touchdown in that game, and kind of kept our athlete in there, Anthony Bailey, playing a little bit, and then Julian kind of took over towards the weeks 8 and 9 when we could get Bailey back on defense and our receiver as well.
Talk about that Lakeland game. Obviously, in the first round, that bus ride to White Lake, that play. I mean, everything sort of clicked in that game. So talk about, you said you finally had your full team back. So talk about, that Lakeland game, first round Lakeland game.
Yeah, we had some other injuries throughout the year that kids were out for 2-3 games, and so that game we go into it, and they were obviously an option team at times, and had a really good quarterback and a slot receiver that we identified in film that hey, we're going to shut these guys down as best we can, and defensively I thought we did really well. I mean, we gave up 10 points, and we had one. I think we had a strip fumble that they ended up picking back up and getting an extra 15-20 yards on, which hurt. But we were hanging in there, and then offensively we were just one block away or a pass away, really, that we came out in the second half and hit a big pass for a touchdown. Had another one later on that both kids. It was kind of a in between ball, and we didn't come down with it, but we ended up scoring, and the kids saw and momentum shifted, and we got a couple kind of pop pooch kicks and kickoffs, so we kept their offense off the field, which was great, and got putting up points. So we shut them out the second half basically, and it was exciting for our kids and for our program.
And then you guys ran to Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I mean, and we knew how that was gonna be. I mean, obviously getting the district final. I'll be honest with you, I felt really bad for you guys. Talk about having to play them in the district final.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird setup because I knew they were coming from the Catholic League. I coached in the lower levels of the Catholic League for a while, and knew St. Mary's reputation and the kids they had, and obviously they had the kids that were already committed to Michigan State. And it always, as a coach who, we look at the roster and who these bunch of kids that are Farmington and Farmington Hill kids that were playing against us when they should probably be playing with us. But it was a good game. I thought it was, if you're gonna be the best, you got to beat the best. And we just didn't execute very well, and they had some big plays on us. I thought we had a first couple series, we get them in 3rd and long or 4th down, and then they get a first down out of it. So can't win games that way, and it was a rough ending, but I always reflect and on the culmination of the whole season. And it was a great year for us. And just there's only one team in each division is going to be happy at the end. So.
And then let's look at this year's team, this year's version of the Farmington Falcons. Before we talk about the team, I want to get your thoughts on this. I know this is you guys' last year in the OAA. What's your thoughts about moving from the OAA to Lakes Valley?
It's kind of. When I grew up and played for Farmington High School, we were in the Western Lakes, and so it's a lot of the same teams with the Walled Lakes. The South Lions are in there. I think it's great for the district for athletics. Just with transportation is now a major factor, and with schools. And I can't speak for all districts, but bus transportation isn't easy. And I think it's with the Livonias that are right next door, and Walled Lake schools are fairly close. Really the furthest one for us is going probably to White Lake, Lakeland. And, we did that last year, and it was kind of a shorter bus ride than going to some of the OAA schools. It's an exciting time. And, it being the last year of the OAA, I'm glad that it's a full year for all athletics to be able to do that. And then, and we'll still be seeing everybody probably in 7-on-7s and in the playoffs and everything like that, and be able to schedule those teams with non-conference schedule games and stuff like that.
And let's look at your team this year. Obviously, you did lose a lot of pieces. Let's go your offense first, and we'll talk your defense. Obviously, offensively, you guys are replacing a lot on the offensive side of the ball. So talk about the offensive side of the ball.
So, we replaced 2 senior tackles that Brady Petruccia was a 3-year starter for us, so that's going to be a big loss. And we're losing Trenton Darden at running back, and he split time with a kid who will be returning, and Antoine Bailey. But, Julian was a 2-year starter for us, basically, at a quarterback, which is always going to be a tough loss, but I think we'll be all right there this year. And receiver wise, we lost one, Trey Whitfield, but we had a bunch of kids who are returning at our outside and in our slot positions. So, I think we have 3 of our 5 offensive linemen returning, and then we've got a lot of other kids that we're going to plug in place and different formations and stuff like that. So it'll all balance out. I think all total, we probably have 6, maybe 7, 6, and I'll count it a half, because we've got kids that have started games or played major contributing factors in games in the past. So.
And when you look at this, when you look at the quarterback situation for you guys, how's that quarterback position looking for you guys?
So we've got right now, I think we have 4 kids at quarterback coming out, and then that's not including Anthony Bailey, who played quite a bit last year for us. So we're going to obviously keep him in some packages and whatnot, but Vinny Pacey, who's the brother of Don Pacey, he was focusing on baseball last year because that's what his main sport is, and he's coming out for his senior year, and he was our JV quarterback his freshman and sophomore year, and he's a big time leader for us, just on presence. And Leo Pace returns as well, he'll be a senior as well. And then upcoming juniors from the JV team coming up. So we've got, 4 or 5 kids in the quarterback room.
And then obviously we talked about the running back situation. Talk about the proven pass catchers. Obviously with Anthony, you can move him anywhere, but talk about any other impact players the OA Nation needs to know about.
Sure. Herschel McCormick-Reamer was our slot receiver who I don't have the stats off the top of my head. I think he had 500 some yards rushing, and he had a ton of. It was tough for me getting him recognition at receiver spot because he did a lot. He ran a lot of jet sweeps and ran toss out of the backfield at times as well. But he was a big time scorer for us when we needed him, and he also doubled that corner for us and had some really big plays, especially against Troy with their their 6'3" receiver. And then Darius Warren's the other receiver who's returning out there. We have Jalen Marshall returning, who had a lot of time coming in as well. We've got some upcoming JV kids that are looking to buy time and get reps in there as well that I think are very capable and kind of understand their role. Like they're not going to be the starters right away, but they're going to kind of work their way in a little bit. But yeah, Anthony is another kid that played outside receiver. We can put him in the slot because he's a big frame kid and he'll block and he'll do whatever's asked of him. Obviously, moving to quarterback, having never played quarterback before, he's got no problem doing that.
Talk about your lines. Obviously, this is the strength, the battle of the trenches. Talk about any proven offensive lineman, defensive lineman, OA Nation needs to know about.
Yeah, so offensively, we return our three interior guys. Evan Sims and Vaughn Hoffmeyer have been our guards the last couple of years, and then Ashwin Suresh Babu. And I always pronounce it wrong, but I think I say it right. Mm-hmm. He was our center, and they were kids who like Ashwin was out for a game, I think versus North. He was not definitely, but he was really, really sick and just couldn't do it. So it was kind of a last minute in that game where we didn't have our starting center in. Defensively, we return Miles Smith, who will be a junior, who's been a kid on varsity since we had him up as a freshman. He's big, 6'3", 6'4", like 215-pound kid who plays basketball as well. And he's returning for us. And then we have couple kids that have played minutes here and there, but then Carter Kalinsky is a kid who kind of plays on the outside or inside backer for us, sometimes can be a DN, so he's pretty versatile in that respect as well.
And then let's talk your defense. Obviously, this is the heart and strength of Farmington. Any impact players that OA Nation needs to know about, or any underrated players that OA Nation needs to know about?
I don't know if they're underrated Miles Smith is a kid who's been getting D1, D2 looks right now, obviously with his frame and his speed. Herschel, he's got, I think he just last week just got offered by Ferris State. Anthony's a kid who's been getting looks because he's versatile enough and athletic enough to play safety or corner. John Howell has been a kid who, he was an all-region kid last year, and he's him and Herschel were in the 4x1 and 4x2, I believe, in the state track meet. But John's a kid who we will double him down at outside backer at times. I think he ended up the year with 5 sacks because he's got some fast twitch to him. And then Carter Kalinsky's another kid who. Big frame, strong kid who has played inside, has played outside, and we kind of try to be versatile in who we have, and he's probably the one of our kids that he's been on varsity since sophomore year, that he knows all the intricacies of the defense that we do and knows all the calls and is a vocal leader out there for us on the defensive side. And I'm trying to think if I'm losing it. Jalen Marshall played the corner for us, Herschel. So we've got quite a few DBs that we can spin around. We also got a transfer. Christian Gillings is coming in that played at Novi, and he's a DB too. So we got some ability to kind of move guys around at times and match personnel and kind of play where whatever's going to be our strength.
And then let's talk about program strength here. Before we talk schedule, talk about your middle school program, your JV program, freshman JV programs. Talk about the importance of having that for the varsity program. Yeah,
with our district, we have like the each middle school kind of has their football teams, and then it's kind of a not a lottery, but the kids can kind of choose as incoming freshmen what school they're going to go to in the district for high school. So it's tough knowing who exactly we're going to get. We get some kids that'll play, in the NFWB Vikings or Southfield Falcons, stuff like that. But like our JV program has been strong, obviously, with the kids that we have up with us now. They've had winning seasons the last couple of years. And we have my head coach is retired, and so he's been a big provider in our off-season program as well. So it's been great, and it's early in the summer, and looking at freshman numbers is always who's going to show up when they sign up. In the winter and spring, and some kids get cold feet, but our strength has always been to trying to develop our kids and have them understand what our base packages of offense, defense, and be able to learn that, excel with it, and then as they move up to varsity, be able to kind of step right in and do what is expected of them. So it's always it's nice to have that. I've had last couple of years, I've had a lot of the same coaches in our lower levels. So it's nice to have that continuity and development of our young players.
Talk about the importance of Coach John Bechtel. Obviously, you played for Coach Bechtel. How important has he been for your development as a head coach?
I got to give him every bit of credit. As for the coach who I am now. I mean, I still run a lot of the stuff that we did when I was a player, when I was a coach under him, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without his. He hired me right out of college and gave me a job in coaching JV and then freshman, and then had me up with the varsity. And I learned a lot of football knowledge, learned a lot about just development of players and organization is huge. And that's I kind of use similar layouts for some of my contact sheets and everything, and obviously tweak them as I've gone along with the new age with technology and everything. But everything I've started coaching was because of him. And it's kind of ironic because he's coaching over at Western now, and in 2026 I'll be coaching against him. So
yeah, that'd be really interesting. I mean, looking at that matchup, you going up against your former coach, going up against him next year when you guys are in the Lakes Valley. That'll be really interesting, when you look at that matchup.
I'll just have to ask your buddy Sean all the ins and outs before we play him, right?
Yeah, he should. I mean, we'll see how that goes.
He's not going to tell me anything, but
I know he won't. Let's not talk schedule. I mean, obviously, before we talk the division matchups, let's break down your non-conference matchups. Obviously, you look at, you're in the blue this year. You only have I think 2 non-conference games. So break those down in your eyes.
Yeah. So our 2 non-conference, we have Holly, which we're traveling to there this year, which should be interesting without all the construction that's going on in Michigan. But they're, Billy's Billy Keenan's the head coach there.
Know him quite well.
Yeah, he's a great coach, and I have the most respect for him, and he's always got well-run programs, and they're going to run power down at you, and I think it's always tough. Our first 4 of our first 5 games are on the road this year, so we're gonna find out real quick who we're made of, and it starts with going to Oak Park, and then obviously having to travel that far to Holly, and they had a lot of strong kids who gave us problems at times, and hopefully with our group coming back, they kind of have an idea of what they're going to see, and we can execute at a high level. Week 9 we have Crestwood, and last year we played them, and they were a playoff team multiple years, and they had some real big kids up front. Their quarterback they spread the ball out on us a little bit, and again, kind of it was a back and forth game. We'd get up and thought we had them on the ropes, and then they were fighting back. And that's going to be a tough game for us again. And I'm looking forward to that. And it's probably the first game I think I've had as head coach. It'll be a home game for Week 9. So, but again, it's two teams that are usually strong programs that have a lot of playoff appearances in the last couple of years.
With Holly, obviously, you also get to meet former Lake Orion defensive coordinator Dave Tooley, who's their defensive coordinator at Holly. So that should be a really interesting matchup. That should be a really interesting matchup. Your offense going up against Holly's defense.
Absolutely.
And then let's look at your crossover matchup. I mean, before we talk your division, I don't have the schedule right with me. So if you want to break down your crossover opponent for me, please.
Yeah. So we had already booked, and already had contracts signed with Holly and Cresswick, because we did 2-year deals last year. So we didn't get a crossover with the gold this year, but we cross over with the red, and we are traveling to Clarkston. So
ooh, that's not going to be easy.
No, it's not an easy bus trip to begin with. That's one of those ones that takes forever to get to. But we're going to prep our kids for that game, and obviously they're going to be returning a lot. And Coach actually, I went through him getting our headsets, so I asked him if there was a special button to hear what they were doing on their headsets. But it's going to be a tough matchup, and it'll be a good measuring stick for us. Hopefully getting into the playoffs in a couple weeks after that. So obviously they return. I think the Twins that when we were watching,
the Bowman Twins, they're back.
Yep. So I mean they've got a lot of kids returning. I think the quarterback's returning. So it should be a good measuring stick for us.
It should be a really interesting matchup. I mean, I do got questions with Clarkson, especially on their defensive side, but but I'll talk to them about that with them Clarkson coach Justin Pintar about that. But let's break down the division. Obviously, you're in the blue. We talked about for your final year in the division. I do want to break down each team in your eyes. Let's start off with your Week 1 opponent, which is Oak Park. Oak Park, is a team that's been on the rise, you know what I mean? Like in the last few years, I know they've had some down years, but this could be the year Oak Park might come back.
Yeah, I chat with Coach Carter quite a bit. All right, in the last couple of years I have, and they've been a young team, and I think he said they hadn't had a quarterback return for back-to-back years, probably since Mathis was there. So. Their quarterback's returning. They have some big kids up front, and they gave a lot of teams problems last year. And where coming back with that experience, those kids, they're gonna be hungrier than ever to try to take over the blue. And I think it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, Week 1, it's a lot different than playing teams like Week 5, where you got a little more establishment, but. We're looking forward to, competing against a coaching legend in a program like Oak Park.
Let's talk Bloomfield Hills. Obviously, you look at the Blackhawks, new coach and Scott Merchant taking over that program. What's your thoughts about Bloomfield Hills and the direction they've been?
I always looked at Bloomfield Hills as one of those games where, and really any game now within our league, that you can't ever sleep on them. And they've had some really big kids up front. They've had, I think it was the 2020 season where their quarterback was running and throwing all over us, big plays, and they've got kids out there. Yeah, and I mean they've had some tight end kids in the past. I know the last 2 years they've kind of had to switch quarterbacks and whatnot, but they're always a team that's got good numbers, got good size, got some athletes, and I know their JV beat ours last year. So I mean, I'm not sleeping on them in any respect. And Merch being the coach he is, and I was making sure he was good when I knew he left LTU, and kind of saw what had transpired, and then it's, oh well, now we get another great coach in the OAA. So I'm looking forward to that and that battle.
Let's talk Troy. What's your thoughts on the Colts this year?
The last couple of years, like I know last year we finally got them, and that was a team that, as a head coach, I hadn't beaten in the past, and it was something where, they always have dudes. Last year they had, I think Peacock was the kid's name, and
Jalen Peacock.
And they had the big lineman and the quarterback, and I'm kind of glad they're gone now, but they're a well coached team as well, and they have some good sized kids, and they get after you on both sides of the ball. And I always joke because we're getting new lights this year. And Troy was one of those schools that had those lights that flicker when they score, and that was, I'm telling them, like, hey, like I told our kids, like, I don't want those lights going off and on unless we're scoring, because we got them at home this year. So I'm again looking forward to that game, and I think that is one of our home games as well. That I'm not sure if that's the homecoming game of Bloomfield Roses.
Athens. What's your thoughts on Athens?
Well, I'm pretty sure they have their big tight end coming back.
Yep, Nathan Pickett.
I know they lost him last year to injury, which always hurts when you lose your best player. But they were running the T last year, and that's not something you see anymore. So it's always, a difficult thing to do when you're used to seeing teams that are running the spread a little more, and then all of a sudden now you got to go back and teach your kids, what we're looking for with reads and keys, and being able to shut down that offense, and then make sure we're putting up enough points on defense, or on our offense, because the wing T the T formation, like they're trying to keep that ball in their possession and limit the amount of chances you have. So you got to score every opportunity you can.
Seaholm, I mean, now you're running from a wing T, having to go against a veer team. So talk about Seaholm.
Oh yeah, again, it's the veer, being that they're one of the only ones that really run the veer. It's always a week where you got to reteach and strategize to try to stop them as much as you can. Like those kids have bought in and really get after the ball, and defensively they're tough, and they, even when we have scored points on them, it's we have to fight for it. So there's no easy plays ever, and you gotta, last year we had an opportunity and didn't score at the end, and scored on defense against them and early on, and then just couldn't really do a whole lot offensively, but because they were so stout up front. So that game is definitely a difficult one, and one that we're on the road for this year. So going to have to play our best to win that one.
And then last but not least, you get to go to Ron Holland this year. You play your arch rival for the Farmington Cup, North Farmington. So talk about the Raiders in your mind.
Yeah, we actually have them at home this year.
Oh, sorry about that. Apologize.
No, yeah, we went there last year. Yeah, it's, again, when you have a rivalry game, I talk a lot about the emotion that goes behind it, and a lot of the kids, maybe our kids went to school with, or they see them in the community, and I've stressed about just execution and focusing on us and not about them, and it's always a fun game. It's great for our community. Obviously, a couple years ago we didn't get that game, and I think that hurt both programs in the community a little bit. But I think it's a great game, and it's early on in the year, so hopefully everybody's healthy, and we can give each other our best shot.
And usually those games are sellouts. I mean, obviously you got your big student section, Nord brings their student section. I mean, that game could get really, really intense.
Yeah, it's, in the couple of years they were doing like pre-sell tickets and all that kind of stuff. Now there's always, all hands on deck as far as administrators and everybody there, just to make sure everybody's having a good time and being responsible. And luckily I'm on the field, so I don't got to deal with all the extra stuff that goes on, but it's definitely a thrilling game. And I mean, even last year was a tight knit game, and just didn't go in our favor.
And then let's look at the community aspect of it here. Obviously, you got Farmington's a really big community for football. So talk about how important the community has been for the city of Farmington for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we try to go out and do stuff in the community all the time. We go and read to elementary students every March for Reading Month, and then get out with some of our fundraisers. We do with a lot of collaboration with some of the community that go on the little discount cards, so that we're hopefully getting them more people coming in the door, and then people know when and where our games are, and getting out there and working with the CARES Foundation. Last year we had a couple kids doing it. This year, hopefully, we're going to have more be able to do it. But I think it's great. They support us. Like, we get a bunch of people that sponsor the program and get banners up around the stadium and whatnot. So it's something that we try to take pride in, and obviously being high school kids, try to represent Farmington High School, and have our students be those that the younger in the community can look up to.
Any changes to the uniforms this year? Because I know when you played for Coach Bechtel, you always went Penn State, and I've noticed the last few years when I've looked at Farmington, their uniforms, I've been saying to myself, where's the Penn State look that this team used to have? I mean, I miss that look.
Yeah, we actually they're in our closet still. I still have them. I went through a few of them and was just naming off kids that played for us back in the day, just based on number. But when Soroch took over, he kind of went in a different direction, and then I kind of wanted to put my own little flair to it, so we kind of went with a different look. And I like our decals on the helmets, even though they're the white helmet still, which I know you don't like, but trying to keep it structured. They're kind of the ones we have now kind of resemble the Cowboys with the gray pants and the triple stripe, and I think they look sharp, and our kids like them. And that's like I said, at the end of the day, like, I'm not worried about what we're wearing as much as how are we playing.
Before I let you go, Coach, what is your expectations this year for Farmington football in their final year in the OAA?
Well, it's going to be a battle every week, and my expectation is our kids are going to be as prepared as they can be, and hopefully execute at a high level. And I think at that point, I always say games take care of themselves. But I think it's going to be it's never an easy road in the OAA, and obviously it's being as it's the last year of it. I don't know if that'll make any difference, or teams want to fight a little harder because of it. But I'm looking forward to a great year, and hopefully the wins and losses take care of themselves, and our kids are playing at a very high level.
Farmington coach Jason Albright, thank you for joining us on the podcast, and we'll see you at Media Day this season.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me again.
Take care, Coach.
All right.
That was Farmington coach Jason Albright talking about the Falcons as we head into the year. When I look at Farmington this year, I think they could be very good. They could surprise some people in the blue. I think they can make some noise this year. I really look at with Farmington, they can really, surprise some people. Now they did lose a lot of talent last year, so there are some question marks with Farmington coming into the year. So, I still think when I look at this team on paper, I think they're a playoff team. I know it's sad for me, for Farmington and also North Farmington to leaving the league after the season. So I'm really sad about that. But we'll see what happens with Farmington this year. I think Farmington could be very good. I think Anthony Bailey's one of the top players in the game, and we'll see what happens going forward. Or maybe when we come back, we're going to talk to Oxford coach Trevor Potts here on the podcast. Okay, welcome back to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taormina here. We got the new coach of the Cats, Coach Trevor Potts. Thank you for calling in this week here on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Sammy. Appreciate your time.
When you look at Oxford last year, of course, you were the defensive coordinator under Zach. Recap last season in your eyes.
Yeah, I think last year was kind of a culmination of 4 years of ups and downs and trials and tribulations. And, that group of kids as seniors really came through and stepped up for our program big time. Just had a lot of awesome relationships with that group of kids and just excited to be around them and see them have some success.
I do want to look at one game in particular. That Davison game on the road. I mean, you held a really good Davison offense of only 14 points. So break down that game a little bit from last year in that game.
Yeah, watching those guys on film and, seeing them a little bit over the summer face to face in some 7-on-7s, we knew they were a really talented group of people. Jake does a great job with them offensively. They punched us in the mouth a couple times in the first half, but kids just kind of stuck to the plan, played their tails off, and obviously offensively we did enough to get the win in the playoffs. So, it was a huge challenge to go to Davison week 1 in the playoffs, but, our kids didn't panic at halftime when we were down, and they came out and did what we do and played their tails off. So it was a great evening.
When you look at that team last year, and obviously going through the red, winning the division for the first time in school history, and then now you see Zach going to the NFL, back to the NFL for Coach Sean Payton. Talk about, when you look at being the guy now, what was your thought process when you found out you were the new head coach at Oxford?
Yeah, there's a lot there, a lot of emotions there. This will be my 5th year in Oxford. We've been part of this community now for about 14 years. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Rochester, but this is definitely home. The number of people who have been supportive and congratulations, and just I couldn't ask for anything more. And most important is our football program and families. One of the reasons that made it really easy to put my hat in the ring was I knew we'd be able to keep our coaching staff together, keep the program consistent, continue with our Oxford identification and who we are, and really just kind of continue to build on what we're so proud of building over the last few years.
Talk about there's 2 questions I want to talk to you before we talk about the team. About obviously your experience at Adams. Obviously I know you learned a little bit from Tony. Talk about your experience with Tony at Adams.
Yeah, I would say I learned definitely more than a little bit. Tony and Mark McFarland and that staff are some of my best friends. We've spent a ton of time together. It wasn't just about football; it was about the people there, and that staff are first class people. But I learned a lot about how to treat players and organize practices and prepare and put in work and how to develop the right kinds of relationships with kids and families. And to be honest, it's very similar to Oxford. We've had a few assistant coaches over the years that have come from Adams to Oxford, so there's a lot of similarities between the 2 programs. But I'll forever be grateful for my time at Adams, and just it's a great place.
Talk about how important Zach was to you, obviously, giving you that opportunity to be his defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Zach and I, not just from a football perspective, just developed a strong friendship, and that's been the toughest part of him. Heading to Denver is just a person that I would talk to almost daily or see daily is off doing something awesome, and I couldn't be more excited for him. But that friendship is definitely something I will miss. He's been around a little bit this summer, so it's been good to kind of catch up and check in on his family and do all of those things. But yeah, he has helped mentor me. We spent a ton of time together especially the last couple of years. building our scheme and kind of getting down to who we wanted to be defensively as a football team. And just grateful for Zach.
Of course, let's talk about the team now. Obviously, you guys returned the quarterback and Jack Hendricks. Talk about what he's been doing this offseason, and what any differences have you seen from the past with Jack?
Yeah, Jack's also a great baseball player, as you know. He had a good baseball season, but he's been putting time in with quarterback coaches, a little bit of 7-on-7 work, and just the progression for Jack now as a senior is to continue as a leader, building up those skills, and also just knowing the ins and outs of our playbook. He spent a lot of time with Coach Groto going through that playbook and really, kind of personalizing it to him and his strengths. Where over the past couple of years, it was been more just trying to teach Jack the basics and the concepts so he understood what he was doing. Now it's about him owning that offense and really setting the tone for us.
Now we look at Oxford here. Obviously, Oxford's been known in the past for pound the rock with their running game. You do lose a really good running back. You lost a really good running back in Luke Johnson.
Yep.
Talk about, how are you going to handle that running back situation?
Yeah, I think we've had a few good ones over the last several years, and Luke is one of the best. Not just from a running back perspective, but from a leadership perspective. I think we've got 3 or 4 guys who we can see running the ball really well. Seth Taylor's probably at the lead of that pack, but in the end, we've got guys who are going to play a little bit of offense and play some defense, and we're still trying to figure out how they're going to contribute on both sides of the ball. So I don't see somebody getting 90% of the carries like Luke did for us last year and just grinding the way that he did. But I'm really excited about the guys that will run the ball, and we'll continue to have that be part of our ID in this upcoming season.
Talk about your pass catchers. Obviously, you got some proven pass catchers on your team here. So, talk about them a little bit, please.
Yeah, I think, for us, it boils down to senior leadership just like everybody else. So Cam Moore has really had a good offseason. He's worked hard. Again, a basketball player, but he's been putting in the work. Excited to see. And then really there's probably 6 or 7 guys that we're looking to have contribute, and including our tight ends. So, yeah, we're excited about a lot of the young guys, our junior class, and to continue to kind of help Jack along in the passing game and make big plays.
Talk about your lines. Obviously, Oxford's been known to have really good lines in the past. Talk about this offensive line, this defensive line that you guys are going to have this year.
Yeah, I think Liam Samborski will be in his 3rd year as a varsity football player as a junior. He's just an awesome kid. Works his tail off. He was the first one to be there, the last one to leave. And also Aiden Ryan has had a really good offseason as far as putting in work. We're really excited about our guys up front of all the position groups, especially offensive line. There's some returners and there's some leadership there that we're really hoping to run behind and pass behind all season long.
And then your defense, obviously, in the linebackers and the defensive secondary. Can you also break those down for me, please?
Yeah, one guy and who we are returning a linebacker is AJ Krupa. He's just a tough-nosed, athletic leader for us defensively. We're going to put a lot of weight on his shoulders, as our middle linebackers at Oxford have taken on a lot over the last several years, and this will be the 5th year, and he will shoulder a lot of the leadership and the communication that we're expecting out of that group. I'd mentioned Seth Tabor a little bit earlier as a running back, but also at safety, and Chase Cardona, another returner who got some work last year, who we're hoping will have a big senior season. So yeah, we're excited about all the pieces. And again, our senior class is not huge, but guys who have had experience should step in really well and have a good season. And then our juniors there's 4 or 5 kids in the secondary who we're hoping will jump into those corners and safety and linebacker positions that seniors last year left holes for.
Talk about the schedule this year. You guys got a brutal schedule. When I looked at it, you guys open up at home week 1 against Heartland. I mean, like, how in the world did that one come out?
Yeah, listen, we're we're not ducking anybody. And Zach felt strongly, and I feel the same way, that you don't get better not playing great competition. So, when we had an opportunity to sign Heartland to a 2-year deal, again, a program that has been very successful in football and other sports, it was an exciting opportunity to replace Eisenhower. We're looking to play the best teams in the state to continue to improve week by week by week, and the 2025 schedule is no different.
Week 9, you get Macomb, Dakota. You gotta go down there, which is that's always interesting, because you look at Macomb, Dakota. They're one of the top teams in the MAC and the MAC Red, and that's gonna be a challenge for you guys going down there to Macomb, Dakota.
Huge challenge, and looking back at them last year, they were hard-nosed, they were athletic, they do a lot of things really well. So I would anticipate week 9 in Dakota at Dakota is going to be no different.
And that's not even talking the Red. I mean, and then of course you got your crossover matchup as well. I mean, I got to remember from the tip of my tongue who your crossover is against.
Our other OA are Groves.
Groves, my
Athens
bad.
And North Farmington, and then the Reds. So.
Thank you for break those games down, those non-conference games, before we talk the Red. I mean, obviously, let's start with Groves.
Yeah, Groves had a tremendous season last year. Coach Flaherty does a great job. We played them a few years ago, so there's some familiarity there. But they are tough-nosed. They run the ball well. They do a lot of things well. So we're excited to get that matchup going again. I did teach in Troy for about 20 years, so I'm excited to see some familiar faces when we see Troy Athens, and then obviously North Farmington. Having some rivalries in the past with the staff at Harrison, and a lot of those guys are still at North Farmington and doing a great job with their kids there as well.
And then you look at that match with Athens, obviously. What's your thoughts when you're going against the Red Hawks and seeing that wing T offense? It's an offense we in the OAA, it hasn't been ran a lot in a long time.
No, and that provides a challenge, right? When you're the one-off offense who does things a little bit different, especially for us defensively, trying to figure out rules and how we're going to handle that offense. Coach Cook is an awesome human being, and just excited to see some familiar faces.
And then, of course, North Farmington, we talked about them with Coach Herstein there. Obviously, the Harrison effect. That should be a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, we did see them a few years ago. So again, there is some familiar as far as scheme and plan goes. But every year is a new challenge and a new scheme and new kids. So we'll get ready to play them in week 8.
And then let's talk the Red, which I feel, in my opinion, this is the toughest division in the state of Michigan. I mean, last year, all 5 teams made the playoffs that were in this division. So let's break each of these teams down. We're going to start with West Bloomfield. Of course, last year you guys went in the swamp and won there at West Bloomfield. So what's your thoughts on the Lakers and Coach Jack Hilbert's team?
I mean, listen, you watch those guys on tape and how they play and what they do, and certainly from a defensive perspective, there is a lot of weapons and a lot of tools. I think last year we definitely got the better of them, but they'll come back strong. They had a good season as well last year. Just excited for that challenge on October 3rd.
Let's now talk Adams. I mean, the fear of the Veer, I call this team. Obviously, Adams, from your days, Coach Tony Petrino. Talk about Adams a little bit in your mind.
I can't say enough positive about the people there. They've got returners all over the place, quarterback and offensive line. They're going to be Adams. They're going to continue to do what they do. Mark Petrito's there now offensively. That's one of the games on the schedule that I circle every year because, number one, I get to see people that I love and respect, but number two, they're always really well coached and going to do a great job.
Then let's talk Clarkston. I mean, when you look at the Wolves here, obviously, Clarkston and Oxford, known rivalry. You know what I mean? So this should be a fun one.
Yeah, huge game. I mean, we could go through the list of those four games and go, yeah, great team, great offense, great defense, great coaching, all of those things. Obviously, Clarkston beat us last year in a tight game, so we're excited to see the Wolves again.
And then the game for Oxford fans, Orion. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the Dragons, last year you guys got the best of Orion. So talk about Lake Orion in your eyes.
They provide something unique defensively, at least they have in the past, that I know that we've had trouble with, and offensively, Coach Bell has done a great job getting back to his roots from that jet spread offense, and they're gonna hit you from every angle and make sure that you are sound defensively to kind of corral that offense. But yeah, we're expecting them to be a really good football team again this year.
Very interesting. I know when you look at that game, we'll see how that one goes. I know that game will be on TV this year. Obviously, talk about program strength here, lower levels, the youth levels, middle school levels, and of course the freshman JVs. I'll let you break all those down for me.
Yeah, excitement around Oxford football is high. Zach's done a great job of laying a foundation, but historically, one thing that people know about Oxford is that they love their football. Our freshman and JV numbers have been good. I think we're in the 80s to 90s between those two levels. Our middle school numbers are great. We just had our middle school staff up last week to go through scheme and join us for practice. And then our OJW program does a tremendous job building kids and building character and teaching kids the basics. So, yeah, football is strong in Oxford.
Talk about your freshman JV program, obviously. You really look at, last few years. I know Coach Karp very well over there coaching your JV. So how important is the freshman JV level at for Oxford?
Coach Lee for our JV and Coach Bull, our freshman coach, and their entire staff are number one great people. It is about developing relationships, teaching those basics so that when they get to us on Friday nights, they're ready with those tools in their back pocket. They keep kids around our program. They keep kids having fun, and they just do an awesome job with their kids.
Talk about the impact of the community. Obviously, we know Oxford's a really proud community. Been through a lot, and I still, every time I drive around on 24 and under downtown Oxford, you always look at the Oxford Strong. Talk about the importance of the community around Oxford.
Yeah, without getting too emotional about where we live.
I know.
It is something special on Friday night to see how this community bands together to support our football, our dance team, our cheerleading, our band. Just the event on Friday night is second to none, and just so grateful to be part of that in our community. The people in our community have gone through the worst, but they continue to support each other and give back to each other and try to do what's best for all.
And when you look at, of course, identities, obviously I look at uniforms, and I know a lot of people say, well, you're the biggest uniform critic in sports, you know what I mean? And I looked at Oxford, when they went to the uniform, when they changed helmets, I'm going interesting look, you know what I mean? Yeah. So now with you at the helm, is there going to be any changes to the uniforms?
Without breaking too much news, the simple answer is no. We will look like we have the past few years with our blacks, our whites, blues, and yellows, and our stripe on our helmet, and the OHS logo is going to stick around. So our look will be about the same.
You guys look like LSU, though. You know what I mean? When you look at you guys look like LSU. You know what I mean? I'm saying to myself, you know what I mean? When Bud was there, he went with the blue helmet with the O on there. And, but I love the simplified uniform. I really love that plain, simple uniform. Just don't go white on white, you know what I mean? Because that's always been the curse around Oxford. Every time they go white on white, it's been bad luck and all that. I remember when they played Romeo, they wore that look, and I know they played Lake Orion, and back in 2012 they went white on white. That's not a good. That's usually a bad bad sign if you're Oxford going that white on white look.
I think we'll steer clear of that still.
Before I let you go, Coach, what is your expectations this year for Oxford football?
The expectations don't change, and those are embrace our process, continue to improve every day, develop young men of character, and the rest kind of takes care of itself. I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but that's what we focus on. We've got a lot of young people who are going to get varsity experience for the first time this year and have some growing up and developing to do, but just really excited to get involved in that process and improve week by week.
You guys got a motto this year, like a theme this year for you guys?
Earn your stripes, and then really it boils down for us to improve daily. That's our Oxford ID, improve daily.
Oxford coach, I'm Trevor Potts. Thank you for joining us here this week on the podcast.
Sammy, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you.
Take care. God bless.
Have a good day.
Yep. So when I look at Oxford, I really think this team can be very good this year. I think obviously with Jack coming back, that is a that is a big sign when you have your quarterback coming back. Running game, Max Gentry is one of the kids I'm really curious to see. I know we didn't talk about him on the podcast, but he's one of the kids I'm curious to see. Obviously, when you look at, he was a shot putter and a discus thrower for Oxford this year on the track. So I'm really curious to see how he does this year. When I look at the schedule, it is brutal. It wouldn't surprise me, like, at all, hypothetically, it wouldn't surprise me if Oxford gets at least, I think if they get maybe at least 2 wins with that schedule, I think they're a playoff team regardless because of that strength of schedule component. But I think Oxford could be a really, really dangerous team this year. And I really think even with Jack at quarterback, I think Coach Potts has got this team heading in the right direction. And when you're playing in a division like the Red, there's really no days off when you're playing in this division. So when you really look at Oxford right now, when I look at the outlook for the Cats, I think there's a lot of upside with them. I know they're going to be ranked in the around the OAA poll to start the year. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes with Oxford. So we'll see what happens. All right, everybody, to sign off here, make sure you follow the blog at Saginaw Bay 4650 at blogspot.com for the latest information around the OAA. We're going to sign off here. Take care. God bless. And I will see you all next week. All right, take care. God bless all.